The views and opinions expressed in the DILLIGAF podcast are those of the host alone and are not intended to express those of any other person, business, or entity. The DILLIGAF podcast is for entertainment only. These are my opinions and should not be interpreted as facts or advice. Think for yourself.
Keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh, yeah. I think that we've all had enough.
1. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the DILLIGAF podcast, talking about anything and everything that interests me. If it makes me think, laugh, cry, scream, rage, or say what the fuck, you'll hear about it. My name's Tom. I am your host. Thank you to everybody for checking out the show on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast from. Make sure you're following on social media. You can find the show at DILLIGAF_pod on all socials. Make sure you follow, like, subscribe, rate, share, comment. All that stuff really helps out the show. And if you ever want to shoot me an email, it's dilligafpod@gmail.com. And you can find all that and more on my link tree, which is linktree/dilligaf_pod, or scan the little QR code right there in the corner of your screen if you're watching on video. So we got a fun topic today. Today we are talking about freedom and rights. Two things that a lot of people like to make a lot of noise about, shall we say. And first and foremost, what I'm going to say, a lot of people are not going to like, but it's a fact. Freedoms are not absolute. They're not absolute. They are 100% conditional. And they're dependent on where you are and who's around you. That's just the way it is. Your freedoms are not absolute. So if that's the case, are they really freedoms? Rights are not rights if they can be taken away. They're privileges. You don't have rights. You have privileges, and they can be taken away at any time by those in authority. And I'm going to focus on, and this is true of all freedoms and all rights, but I'm going to focus on the one that people love to cry about the most, and that's freedom of speech. People love to say they have freedom of speech. They can say what they want. They're entitled to their opinion and blah, 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 blah. And I don't think most people have any clue what the First Amendment actually is. So I'm going to read it to you. This is the exact wording of the First Amendment to the United States Constitution. What it says is, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. That sounds kind of important. Or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. That is the exact wording of the First Amendment to the United States Constitution. Now, like I said, I'm going to focus on the freedom of speech part. All it says is that Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech. Congress, the government, cannot make laws restricting people's right to express themselves. That's all it means. There are so many cases where this doesn't apply. Basically, it's there to protect unpopular speech, whether that be hate speech, speaking out against the government, speaking out against injustice, whatever you want to call it. That's what it's there to protect. But there are a lot of cases where this doesn't apply. It doesn't apply to threats. You can't just go around threatening people. You can't publicly say, oh, I'm going to go do this or that and hurt these people, this person, whatever. I'm going to go take this person's life. No, you can't do that. That's not covered under the First Amendment. You are not free to say those kind of things. It doesn't cover inciting criminal activity, inciting a riot, encouraging people to go out and break the law, or say storm a government building and assault police and all this kind of stuff. Doesn't cover that. That's not covered under. You're not free to say those kind of things and incite riots and criminal activity. No, it doesn't cover causing a public panic. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater and cause, a stampede of people trying to get out and cause people to get hurt and things. No. It also doesn't apply to private businesses. And I'm talking specifically now about like social media. People love to go on social media and say all kinds of outlandish shit and just post these hateful type of comments and things like that. And when it gets taken down, they cry about, "Oh, you're violating my First Amendment right." No, they're not. It's a private business. They can make whatever rules they want for the people who use their platform. And if those people break those rules, they can have their posts taken down or even have their accounts suspended or deleted. So for anybody crying about having their posts taken down on social media, it's not a violation of your First Amendment rights. Though those people can make their own rules because it is a private business. You agree to their rules when you create a profile on their platform. And if one of their rules is no hate speech or anything along those lines, and you break those rules, you get what you get. It's not a violation of anything. That's just the way it is. Same thing, like if you walk into a store and you're creating a disturbance somehow. I don't know. Use your imagination. Creating some type of disturbance, intimidating customers, whatever. They can throw you out. You're not entitled to be there. You're when you walk through the door to that business, you are agreeing to abide by their rules. That's just the way it is. And also, it doesn't mean freedom from consequences. You may have freedom of speech, but you are not free from the consequences of that speech. And what I mean is if you go on a racist or sexist or homophobic tirade on your social media and it gets back to your employer and they fire you because of it, you get what you get. I mean, you are allowed to have those opinions. You are allowed to say those things under the First Amendment. That's what it's there for. It's there to protect unpopular speech. So you can say all the hateful things that you want, but it doesn't mean there won't be consequences for it. If you end up losing your job or having your social media account suspended or whatever else might happen to you because of your little tirade, you get what you get. It's not they're not violating your First Amendment rights. You still got to say what you said, but there's consequences. All the First Amendment means is that the government can't make laws restricting your free speech. But even that, like I said, it's not absolute because there are laws against threatening people. There are laws against that kind of speech. It's called, making terroristic threats or something along those lines. There are laws against inciting riots, inciting criminal activity, causing a public panic. Those things are not covered under that First Amendment. So, is it? Do you really have freedom of speech? Yeah, but it's limited. It's limited as to what you can say and where you can say it. So, yeah, that's kind of my point. Freedom, no freedom. It's not just limited to free speech. I'm just using that as an example because that seems to be everybody's favorite one to whine about. Freedom's not absolute. It's conditional. Depends where you are, who you're talking to, who's around you, and you want to see how conditional that freedom of speech is. Mouth off to a law enforcement officer. And don't get me wrong, that is protected. You are perfectly allowed to tell a cop to go fuck himself or to tell him or her how much of a piece of trash they are. That is protected speech. But I guarantee you that cop is going to, there's going to be repercussions. And those repercussions, let me be clear, those repercussions are 100% illegal. A cop cannot take action against you just for calling them a piece of shit. They legally they cannot, but that won't stop them. They still will. They'll still put you in handcuffs. They'll still violate your Fourth Amendment rights by searching you, searching your car, your house, whatever, because they don't care about your rights. All they care about is their own ego. So again, that freedom is dependent on who's around you when you're exercising it. Also, let's talk about the peaceful assembly provision here. It says Congress shall make no law abridging the right of the people to peaceably assemble. Yet, if you're protesting outside a government building, law enforcement will come and fuck with you. They'll say you're trespassing, even though you're not. It's a peaceful assembly. It's a protest. You are allowed to do that, but law enforcement will violate the law by screwing with you and threatening to arrest you and saying you're trespassing and all that kind of stuff, even though that you can't trespass in public. That's not a thing. But they'll do it. They will violate your rights. That's why I say they're not rights. They're not rights if they can just be taken away that easily. They're not rights if they can be violated like that without any consequence to the person violating them. So my whole point with all of this is you don't have freedom. You don't have rights. You have conditional privileges. You can do these things provided you're in the right place or around the right people. Let's go to another one that people love so much, the Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms. Now, the wording of this in the Constitution has been debated for centuries because it talks about a well-regulated militia. Well, in those days, a militia was a volunteer army, for lack of a better term. It wasn't a formal government-backed military in the way that we think of it today. It was regular people banding together to defend themselves, their country, their state, whatever it might be. That's a militia. But over the years, this amendment has been, basically a private citizen is able to own a gun. But again, it's conditional as far as what type of gun you can own. You have to meet certain conditions to be able to exercise that right. You can't be a convicted felon. Convicted felon can't own a firearm. So again, is it really a right if it can be taken away based on these things? I would say not. It's a privilege and it's conditional. You have to meet certain conditions, certain requirements. Like where I live in Illinois, you have to have a permit to own a gun. You have to have a separate permit to carry a gun. And you have to meet conditions in order to be able to get those permits. You cannot have any kind of criminal record. You can't have any felonies on your record. Otherwise, not only can you not carry a gun, you can't own a gun. So, again, it's conditional. It's not what I would refer to as a freedom. It's a privilege. It's not a right. It's a privilege. And it can be taken away just like that, whether it's justified or not. Law enforcement will take your rights away without a second of hesitation, without a second thought. because they don't care. You're not free, folks. You don't have rights. You have whatever privileges the overlords see fit to let you have for the time being, because they'll take them away. They will, without a second thought. So, I mean, it is what it is. But if you honestly, if you think you have all these freedoms and all these rights that we supposedly have, if you honestly believe that, just take a look around. Look at the state of the world. Look at the state of the country. Obviously, I'm talking about the United States here. That's where I live. I don't have experience or knowledge to talk about other countries. All I can talk about is the United States and specifically Chicago, Illinois, where I live. You don't have freedoms and you don't have rights. You have whatever privileges the people who are running things see fit to allow you to have. And there, let's look at another example. If those people decide that they want you to have absolute freedom in special cases, they will. Look at the rioters at the Capitol. You know, the Orange Menace gets back into office, and oh, that was fine. You can storm up a government building, assault government officials, vandalize government property. That's fine. You can all get out of jail now. It's fine because you did it because you liked me. So those people got some extra privileges that the law didn't apply to them, according to our fearless leader. So it's all conditional. That's what I don't think a lot of people understand. It depends on where you are. It depends on who's around you. It depends on whose side you're on as to whether or not you can actually exercise those freedoms and to what extent you can exercise those freedoms. If the people in control, if you're on their side, you can run rampant pretty much. That's the message being sent anyway. But if you're not on their side, they'll use words like illegal protest. I've heard that word thrown around recently. Illegal protest. What does that mean? What is an illegal protest? Because if it's a peaceful protest against whatever, it's not illegal. You're supposed to have the right to peacefully assemble. But they'll take that away from you too if they don't like the reason that you're assembling. So that pretty much sums up the point of this whole episode. I'm going to say it again. You do not have rights. You do not have freedom. You have whatever privileges the people in charge see fit to allow you to have at any given time. And they can and will take those away on a whim for whatever reason they see fit if they don't like how you are exercising those rights, quote unquote. If they don't like how you're exercising those rights, they'll take them away. Whether it's legal or not, they will. So that's pretty much it for for this episode on freedom and rights. They don't exist. It's an illusion. You don't have freedoms, you don't have rights. You have whatever privileges the people in charge see fit for you to have for however long they see fit for you to have them. And if they don't like how you use them, they'll take them away. Simple as that. So yeah, that's gonna wrap me up for this week. I'm sorry. I know I was away for a little bit again. Life happens, y'all. I want to get more consistent with this. I love podcasting. I love doing this show. I love just talking about random shit, honestly, and talking about sometimes controversial shit like today. There's going to be a lot of people who disagree with me and don't like what I have to say here today, and that's fine. Leave me some comments, shoot me an email, drop me a DM on socials, whatever. I like interacting with you guys. I like hearing your opinion on what I'm talking about. So, like I said, shoot me an email, drop a comment, drop a DM, put a post on my socials, tag me in it, whatever. If you like what I have to say, if you don't like what I have to say, let me hear about it. I'd love to hear from you guys on this topic in particular. Do you agree with what I'm saying or do you disagree? Because just because we're supposedly guaranteed all these freedoms by the Constitution doesn't mean the people in charge are going to let us have them. They're, that's why I say they're not freedoms, they're not rights. If they can be taken away, they're not rights. It's 100% conditional on who you are, where you are, who's around you, and who's in charge. Depends on all those things. So I think that's going to wrap me up for this week. Like I said, I'm definitely going to try to get a little more consistent with these episodes. I want to get them out weekly going forward. Next week is going to be my 20th episode of this show, and that is going to wrap up season one. I figure 20 episodes is a good season. So that's going to wrap up season one next week. And after that, I'm going to take a little bit of a break. I'm going to take 30 days to really get organized, get on track, and compile some new topics, research them, and really start to get consistent with how I'm working on this show because my last podcast, my wrestling podcast, I was consistent with it and I gained a pretty decent following, I think. Decent for, just a one-man show here. So, and I want to do the same thing with this show to where I am consistent with putting out episodes every week. So next week is going to be the season finale, so to speak. We're going to be talking about balance, something that I am something that's very important to me is balance. So that's what we're going to talk about next week, and that's going to be the end of season one. Then we're going to take 30 days, basically the month of April, to get organized, get refocused, figure out what direction we're going to go for season two, and yeah, just get to work. So that's the goal for the hiatus I'm planning to take for 30 days for the month of April. But yeah, so that's where we're going. So again, make sure you check out next week's show. Like I said, we're going to be talking about balance, and make sure again, thank you to everyone who has checked out the show up to this point. Thank you for watching or listening on Spotify or YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts from. Make sure to follow, like, subscribe, share, rate, comment, all that stuff really does help the show. Make sure you're following on social media. It's at DILLIGAF_pod on all socials. And you can find all of that on my Linktree, which is Linktree/DILLIGAF_pod, or scan the QR code right there. Right in the corner of the screen if you're watching the video. And if you ever want to shoot me an email, it's dilligafpod@gmail.com. So with that, thank you once again. And if anyone has any issues with anything that I have said here today, ask yourself one question. Do I look like I give a fuck?